It is January 21, 2020. Hello, my name is Julie Malcolm. Thank you for having listened to my first recording regarding the sabotage I experienced at the hands of the University of the West Indies supervisor, Professor of Linguistics, Hubert Devonish. I now invite you to listen to part 2, which will focus on the academic years 2014 through to 2018, the 4 years in which I should have begun and completed my PhD at the UWI. So in 2014, I received my acceptance letter. I found out years later that my research supervisor should have been named in my acceptance letter, which was the custom of the UWI. That was not the case. I was offered 4 courses between 2014 and 2015. I successfully completed all 4 courses. In the summer of 2015, having no courses to do and no supervisor to work with, I decided to no longer wait on the UWI to make the first move. I decided that I would begin investigating more earnestly who could possibly be my supervisor so I could progress with my research. So of course I interviewed students on campus who were completing and those who would have already completed. What were the concerns? How did you find your supervisor? How were you able to work together? What was, the main things that affected you throughout your journey? And I was told that one of the chief concerns had to do with the lack of availability of the assigned supervisor. So of course that was a priority for me, and I set out to find a supervisor that was available and a supervisor was also knowledgeable about the subject area. I decided on Professor Devonish because he was always present at the Jamaican language unit, and I had read a book he had written, Language and Liberation, plus I would follow up with the newspaper articles that he would write from time to time. So it was my understanding that he was knowledgeable about the area. He had the right amount of passion and he was always available. Therefore, I approached him and I asked him if he would serve as my supervisor. He said yes, but he was up for retirement and UWI might say no. So I said, why not allow UWI to decide whether or not the answer is no? And he said, okay. So I said, what's the next step? Where do we go from here? If it is that you desire to serve as my supervisor, how do we make this official? He instructed me to write to UWI. I wrote to UWI and copied him on it, and we followed up, and eventually he was appointed in January of 2016. So between 2014 September and January of 2016, a year and a half had passed. The policy of the UWI says something about upgrading after the first year, but UWI would have not provided me with the opportunity to do so, to ensure that I was compliant regarding their policies, because they did not appoint to me a supervisor. And when I agitated for one, it did take some amount of time before one was eventually appointed. Professor Devonish served. Oh, before that, I had to apply for retroactive leave of absence for September 2015 through to December 2015, and I had to apply for a refund of my tuition because I had taken a loan to pay my tuition in full. So by that time, by January 2016, I had accrued months and months and months of interest. So not being appointed a supervisor in time was a financial loss for me. So Prof. Devonish served between January 2016 and December 2016, when the level of discourtesy that he displayed just became intolerable for me. I just could no longer be myself while subjecting myself to that level of abuse. I informed him of this in a WhatsApp conversation that we had in November, December of 2016. That WhatsApp conversation is available. And he basically defended it. It was an either-or situation, You want a degree or you want respect? Make up your mind quick and fast. That was the gist of the conversation that we had. And I decided to leave. So I didn't go to any consultation for semester 2. I went to mid-February, I think the 17th of February 2017, I went to one consultation. You see, my research, I had noticed had taken there was a shift, an exciting shift. I needed the advice of a senior person on it. I needed to pitch it to somebody and have the person quiz me on it, and hearing myself defend it. Like, I needed that. It didn't go according to plan. He was extremely disrespectful. And I don't mean that I'm averse to getting feedback. Remember, I created it and I went to get that kind of a feedback. It is necessary. It is just the manner in which he chose to speak, and the fact that he got upset that I would go ahead and do this research without him. I'm like, but you have no manners, but you are disrespectful. You told me to follow the data. I followed the data and I got to X point. This is where I am. So I actually acted on your instructions. My findings are mine. My observations are mine. My revelations are mine. But I followed your general instruction, which was follow your data as a researcher and go where your data goes. So he was extremely disrespectful. That exchange is detailed in a letter that I had written to UWI and can be made available. So I left. Told him I would not return, thanked him for his time and his efforts, and informed him that I would seek a new supervisor, seeing that we can't seem to get along. I didn't go back. I got caught up in my research, and I just didn't go back until it was time for progress report, and that was in May. And on May 10th was when he gave me a glowing report, described my work and my competence and my progress as impressive and excellent, and recommended that the university allow me the opportunity to continue with my research. That is May 10th, 2017. But then 24 hours later, after I confirmed with him that I just could not return to that state of disempowered discourse, he wrote the exact opposite of what was in his progress report to the UWI, to put me in my place, I guess. So that ended there. In summer, June, July 2017, I reported his level of discourtesy and the actions he took to the university. He was removed. One supervisor, I was told, was added. A new supervisor was assigned to me. I sent my work to her. By December 2017, another supervisor was added. But the weird thing was, none of the supervisors, though they were in possession of my work, at least one, from June, July 2017 to January 2018, none gave me written feedback on my 20-odd page work in progress that I had submitted. And so I asked for a meeting, and I was like, we all need to meet together. I need some feedback from you. I need to understand where your thinking is regarding my research. We met in January, toward the end of January. And instead of giving me feedback on my work, they demonstrated a conflict of interest, that they were possessed by the same influence that had possessed Professor Hubert Devonish, and so they were reported to the university. They recused themselves of their duties in August 2018 because the evidence regarding a conflict of interest was, or breaches on the grounds of a conflict of interest, were damning. They were quite evident. And so between 2014 and 2018, I had 2 turbulent years of supervision. I will move on now to the years between 2018 and 2020. Thank you for listening. Stay tuned for part 3.